No data? No problem. With the lowest data rates in the country, have extra fun with SLT Extra GB.
For more details, call 1212.
Tonight, symptoms of CID summons. IGP and former Defence Secretary take to hospitals, but fail to abate arrest. Life in danger. The President claims his hardline stance on drugs has led to death threats. So far under the quash. Opposition mounts against the status of forces agreement with the US.
Because we have no internal issue, we have no external issue. And we don't need foreign troops, we don't need foreign troops stationed in Sri Lanka.
Mixed reviews. Sri Lankan Airlines and Sipetco continue to make losses while China becomes the largest lender to Sri Lanka in the first quarter of 2019. All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 2nd of July, 2019.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා ෆෑනස් වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ ෆෑනස් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammike Kanaka. Let's take you straight to the local stories. Now, what can be considered as blockbuster arrests to date pertaining to the horrendous Sunday attacks were made today. Both IGP Pujit Jayasundara and former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando were arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department. The day, however, wasn't without a curious development as both suddenly fell ill and were admitted to hospital. The duo was also required to appear before the CID this morning, and after their arrest, both were remanded until tomorrow.
Attorney General Appa yesterday instructed Acting Inspector General of Police to name IGP Pujit Jayasundara, who is currently on compulsory leave, and former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando as suspects in the Easter attacks. The Attorney General in his letter called for the duo to be produced before magistrate over their criminal negligence to prevent the April 21st attacks. It also read, quote, "There is sufficient information to prove negligence of official duties and criminal negligence. It is also considered a grave crime against humanity under international law," unquote. Although the former Defence Secretary and IGP Pujit Jayasundara was summoned to appear before the Criminal Investigations Department today, they were both admitted to hospital this morning. Former Defence Secretary Fernando was admitted to the coronary care unit at the National Hospital in Colombo, while the IGP was admitted to the police hospital in Narahenpita. However, the duo was arrested by the CID this evening. Colombo Chief Magistrate Lankan Rupee arrived at the General Hospital in Colombo and ordered the former Defence Secretary Fernando to be remanded until tomorrow. Accordingly, he will be treated further under the inspection of prison officials at the National Hospital. In the meantime, a similar fate befell IGP Pujit Jayasundara when Colombo Chief Magistrate Lankan Rupee arrived at the police hospital in Narahenpita to conduct a fact check. She then ordered the remand of the IGP until tomorrow.
Under the supervision of a superintendent of police, one CID team has been sent to National Hospital and another CID team has been sent to Narahenpeta Police Hospital. Later, CID officers arrested both of them in the relevant hospitals after informed to medical officers. Accordingly, Mr. Pujit Jayasundara and Mr. Hemasiri Fernando are now under the custody of CID and relevant hospitals. And CID will report facts to the Colombo Chief Magistrate Court about this arrest.
In the meantime, journalists questioned Minister Dr. Rajda Ratna regarding the arrest of former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando.
I don't know about the charges levelled against them, but I do know that had the former Defence Secretary revealed everything he knew before the Parliamentary Select Committee probing these attacks, this would not have happened to him today. President Maithripala today revealed that the intelligence units have informed him that he has threats to his life stemming from his crackdown on drug racketeers. Addressing a function held in Anura today, the head of state was critical of those who stand for the rights of drug convicts, saying they never had any input in the efforts to eradicate the drug menace. After listing action he has taken to combat corruption and fraud, he also revealed that the Presidential Commission report on Sri Lankan Airlines will be tabled in Parliament soon.
President Maithripala graced an event organised to hand over title deeds to 8,000 Mahavali settlers at the Siripura Central College grounds in Polonnaruwa.
Many are attempting to weaken the program against illicit narcotics. People are of the view that everything possible to eradicate the drug menace should be done. That is why I signed death warrants for 4 drug convicts. Many have lodged fundamental rights petitions against it. The government, the opposition and the NGOs are bashing me over this. Intelligence units have informed me of death threats over this issue. Those who go to Supreme Court on behalf of fundamental rights of those convicted stand with drug dealers. None of those organizations have helped drug eradication even by a word. Drug dealers fund agendas to criticize me on social media as well as on mainstream media. Why is everyone blaming me? I have appointed presidential commissions to probe fraud committed by this government as well as the former government. That's because I don't care whether those who commit wrongdoings are in the ruling party or the opposition. They all should be punished. I didn't come to protect anyone, but the country and the public. Today I got the report from the commission I appointed to probe financial irregularities at the Sri Lankan Airlines. I will present it to Parliament. I appointed a presidential commission chaired by a Supreme Court justice to probe these Sunday attacks on the 22nd of April. The commission compiled its report and the Attorney General is taking measures based on it. There are fundamental rights petitions filed in the Supreme Court and even I am named as a respondent. When I try to fix the country, even those who brought me to power oppose me along with the opposition. I am attacked like this because I come from humble beginnings. Had the president come from a background of nobility or was educated at Oxford or Cambridge, they wouldn't have attacked. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe lauds investigations launched into Easter Sunday attacks, saying that it's the swiftest in the world, putting all those responsible still among the living in cuffs. Addressing a function held at Temple Trees this morning, the Premier said that unlike other countries which take 2 to 4 years with similar investigations, Sri Lanka managed the feat in just 2 months.
The ceremony to hand over cheques to Samurdhi housing lottery winners was held at Temple Trees this morning under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
We directed the police and the army to start investigations on the Easter Sunday attacks and to arrest those responsible on that day itself. Within 2 months, this became the swiftest investigation on terrorists in the world, and we are getting new information from terrorists who are arrested during probes. I would like to say that all the suspects who are behind the attack and are alive are now arrested. Some countries take 2 to 4 years to progress on such investigations. We even ensured that 600,000 people were given Samurdhi benefits. We also worked off a program to provide land as well. We're bringing a new law to give title deeds for those who have resided at a particular residence for over 10 years. The Ministry of Education is going to provide tabs for students sitting for the advanced level examination. We commenced the project from national schools, which already have Wi-Fi facilities coming under provincial councils. Under the third step, other schools which have advanced level classes will be provided Wi-Fi as well as tablets. We have completed these projects at express speed within a short period of time. I have asked ministers to complete all the programs by September and October. Issues surrounding the construction of a 5-kilometre-long pipeline, oil pipeline that is, which runs from Colombo harbour to the oil storage terminal in Colombo, raised concerns over a possible fuel crisis in the country. Trade unions of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation even threatened to halt fuel supplies to the Ministry of Power and Energy as Minister Ravi Karunanayake sided with some locals who opposed the pipeline's repair work. Just over 140 metres of the pipeline remain to be repaired, and the protesters are against the illegally built houses being removed, which sit right in the path of the supply line. But there could well be an amicable solution to the matter after today's cabinet meeting. No special decision was made. There were around 60 cabinet papers that were taken up for discussion. This issue was discussed with its ministers and the President gave his advice to resolve the matter. He presented it. The Cabinet of Ministers, the President and the Prime Minister approved it, and it was resolved peacefully. I do not think that they will engage in a strike. The issue will be resolved by then. They now understand the issue and have accepted that there had been an error. We were informed that relevant permission was given in June. The issue was that the money was not released from the ministry. Moving on with other stories, UPFA parliamentarian Anura Priyadarshini Appa questions the necessity for Sri Lanka to enter into the proposed Status of Forces Agreement with the United States. The pact allegedly enables and facilitates US military personnel in Sri Lanka, making them beyond reproach under Sri Lankan law. Speaking at a media briefing of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, parliamentarian Appa said that he sees little point in inking the pact as the island doesn't have any internal or external threat to warrant US boots on Sri Lankan soil.
I would emphasize to you that certain clauses that are to be discussed in the SOFA are far-reaching, and it has not been seen for the last 500 years in this country. So what I say is, without going to have a permanent basis Sri Lanka, the negotiations for SOFA is unnecessary, because we have no external issue. We have no threats from other neighboring countries like India, Pakistan, Nepal, or even China. We have been a colony for the last 500 years up to 1948, starting from 1505. In 1956, the remaining forces stationed in Trincomalee and Katunayaka were asked to leave. I really don't understand the basis in which this to be discussed, because there's no necessity. While saying this, I would like to say we have a very good relationship with USA. We would love to have that relationship continue without harming to those relationships. We should not enter into this agreement because we don't need foreign troops here. We see no reason, because we have no internal issue, we have no external issue. And we don't need foreign troops, we don't need foreign troops stationed in Sri Lanka. And an irony of the issue is that the earlier agreement that was signed with the USA was not tabled before the parliament. We don't know the contents about it. And there can be a lot of other documents associated with this. Nothing was known to us. So this is also something which we don't know. Only we have known the part of it or reported by the papers.
The Embassy of the United States in Colombo, however, yet again denied any plan or intention to establish a military base in Sri Lanka. A tweet by US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Elena B. Teplitz, on the matter said that the Visiting Forces Agreement negotiation only aimed to facilitate cooperation, and any agreement will fully respect the sovereignty of Sri Lanka. In the tweet, Teplitz dismissed a local news report on the draft of the Status of Forces Agreement as blatant misinformation. Convener of the Global Sri Lanka Forum, retired Rear Admiral Sarath Weerasekara, questions the motives behind the economic corridor from Trincomalee to Colombo, mooted by the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the United States. His comments come at a time where various factions have raised concerns on its requirement to the country. Speaking to media today, Weerasekara said that 1.2 million acres of land will be selected, or sectioned rather, for the purpose, and some have already been allocated for international organizations. The Millennium Challenge Corporation agreement proposes an economic corridor from Trincomalee to Colombo. It also says that 1.2 million acres of land will be allocated for this purpose, and that the main purpose of the agreement is to eliminate poverty in Sri Lanka. If they really want to get rid of poverty, there are many other districts apart from the ones proposed along the economic corridor that need attention. Therefore, it is evident that poverty alleviation is not their main purpose. Who planned the corridor? This was planned by the National Fiscal Planning Department illegally. Our national resources, wildlife parks, minerals and elephant corridors will be impacted by this agreement. Land have already been allocated for international organizations to be set up within the 1.2 million acre block. 3 acts relating to this block of land will also be passed very soon. The debate surrounding President Maithripala Sirisena's decision to reinstate the death penalty took another twist today, with calls to remove the president's powers to sanction the penalty. Sri Lanka's Centre for Human Rights and Research says that the legislature has the jurisdiction to limit the powers of the executive to implement the death penalty by obtaining a majority in Parliament. It adds that the decision to implement the punishment is not acceptable since several democratic countries have almost abolished the capital punishment, while pointing out that countries have not succeeded in reducing crime rates despite implementing the punishment. The CHR warns that its implementation would only result in creating a less civilized society. They stress that the desired results could not be achieved through capital punishment while shirking off the responsibility to formulate stronger anti-narcotic laws. In other local stories, UPFA parliamentarian Shehan Semasinghe alleges that the banking sector of the country has come under tremendous pressure over the past 4 years. Speaking at a media briefing of the Economic Research Unit of the Joint Opposition held in Colombo today, the MP pointed out that non-performing loans are also on the up, which is a clear indication of an economy in ruin. The parliamentarian, however, was upbeat on what's to come after the looming presidential election.
And again in 2019, for the first quarter, the first 3 months, the percentage of non-performing loans have increased to 4.2%. The experts say it will further increase and the banking sector will come under pressure more and more towards the end of the year. Now the reason behind this, we can see the money circulation is becoming low day by day. There is a lot of economic pressure on the general public. Also, the government is misusing funds. The government has decided to give out further subsidies, welfare, but there is no proper plan to it. There is no method of raising funds. But however, the taxpayers' money and borrowings at very high rates are happening presently due to the government needs money. As a result, the economy is crashing day by day. People will have to face this crisis for the next 4 months for sure, because presidential election will take place in the month of November. Thereafter, there will be a new government. Mahinda Rajapaksa, former president's policies will come into play, and the country will start coming back to normalcy to perform the way we used to perform the last 10 years from 2005 to 2015.
Deputy Minister of Skills Development and Vocational Training Karunaratne Paranavithana calls on the government to strengthen the vocational training sector in the country, saying it is the only way to secure or rescue students who fall off the grid after the advanced level examination. The Deputy Minister said that the sector is desperate for more teachers and financial support, as 100,000 youth fall short of their ambitions of tertiary education, leading to unemployment.
A special workshop was held to review the National Vocational Qualification Framework in Sri Lanka today under the auspices of Deputy Minister of Skills Development and Vocational Training Karunaratne Paranavithana.
There are certain elements in the guise of vocational training doing some unlawful things which are not acceptable. The ministry and especially the TVEC has to play a proactive role in terms of regulation. Our main product is NVQ certificate. So we have to understand whether we are offering a certificate acceptable to the industry, to the world of work, to the society by large. So we have to upgrade the system. There are 330,000 students, school leavers. Out of them, only 30,000 students are eligible to enroll in universities. Another 100,000 is with the system. Another 100,000 is totally left out. This is the problem. That's why we have asked to double the intake in vocational education. But it is easy to say, but very difficult to make a reality, because we need a lot of financial facilities and especially the human resource. We don't have permanent lecturers in various technical colleges. In education department, we have teachers training colleges, but we don't have a proper training college for skill sector teachers. So situation is in that terms very bad.
Now, former Deputy Inspector General of Police Hector Dharmasiri is sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for deploying civil security personnel for personal use has been released on bail. The Colombo Chief Magistrate Lankan Rupee imposed a personal bail of 300,000 rupees on the defendant when the case was taken up today. The Colombo Chief Magistrate earlier today delivered an order sentencing the former DIG to 3 years in prison and imposing a fine of 300,000 rupees on him. When the court, however, was informed of the former DIG's intent to file an appeal with the High Court against the verdict, the Colombo Chief Magistrate decided to release the defendant on bail. Former DIG Hector Dharmasiri was charged for deploying civil security personnel for personal use at his house in Minuwangoda while he was serving as the Superintendent of Police in Matale Division in 2007. There will be more news on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the media fiscal report released by the Ministry of Finance shows Sri Lankan Airlines and Ceylon Petroleum Corporation continuing to make losses during the first quarter of 2019, with Sri Lanka Ports Authority posting a profit of 10.5 billion rupees. The Ministry of Finance also highlighted that China was the largest lender to Sri Lanka during the first month of the year, doling out $989 million, followed by the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank.
The Mid-Year Financial Fiscal Report 2019 was released by the Ministry of Finance yesterday. Some of the key highlights presented in the report showed that total government revenue declined slightly by 3.9% to 598 billion rupees in the first 4 months of this year, from 623 billion rupees in the same period of 2018. Meanwhile, tax revenue declined by 3.3% to 552 billion rupees in the first 4 months of 2019 from 570 billion rupees in the same period of last year, while non-tax revenue declined by 10.3% to 47 billion rupees in the first 4 months of 2019 from 52 billion rupees in the same period of 2018. Total revenue from income tax, however, increased to 104 billion rupees in the first 4 months of 2019, while corporate and non-corporate income tax increased by 10.2% to 43 billion rupees. On government debt, the report noted that total borrowing limit comprised of domestic and foreign borrowings amounting to 535.9 billion rupees and 408.3 billion rupees respectively to finance cash flow operations and development projects during the first 4 months of the year. It further added that treasury bonds and treasury bills were the main sources of domestic borrowings of the government. Giving a review on state-owned enterprises, the Ministry of Finance says that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation's operational and overall losses increased to 11,143 million rupees and 21,178 million rupees respectively in the first 4 months of 2019 due to the increased international oil prices combined with the absence of pricing mechanism for the products used in aviation and power generation sectors and kerosene. Sri Lanka Ports Authority, however, performed favourably in the first quarter, recording a profit of 10.5 billion rupees, while debt to bank was 11,957 million rupees during the period. Meanwhile, the total loss of Sri Lankan Airlines has increased to 12.9 billion rupees in the first 4 months of 2019, while the total debt of SLA has exceeded $750 million. Therefore, the ministry has observed that the government needs to have a significant business restructuring model owing to the high possibility for the government to bear the loss and also due to the high correlation between aviation industry and the tourism sector in the country. The report also noted that the government has made arrangements to mobilize foreign financing of $2,439 million by entering into 19 agreements with foreign development partners and lending agencies from 1st January to the 30th of April 2019 to support the public investment program. China was the largest lender to Sri Lanka during the first 4 months of the year, amounting to $989 million, followed by the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank.
Now, Sri Lanka secured the top spot in the Lonely Planet's Best Travel Destinations list of countries to visit in 2019 despite the recent Easter Sunday attacks. The travel publication maintained Sri Lanka as number 1 while warning readers to check the latest travel advisories of their governments before travelling to the island nation. Lonely Planet was quoted saying Sri Lanka is decidedly having its moment in the equatorial sun and change is coming swiftly. They further added that the country is an ideal location for families, adrenaline junkies, eco-tourists, wellness seekers and foodies of all budgets. In other news, the United States is intensifying its trade fight with the European Union over aircraft subsidies, proposing new tariffs on EU goods worth $4 billion. The tariffs announced by the United States Trade Representative cover 89 products including meat, cheese, pasta, fruit, coffee and alcohol. They could be added to a list of EU exports worth $21 billion. The threat to target more European goods comes just days after the United States and China agreed to resume talks on a trade deal. President Donald Trump said he would hold off imposing new tariffs on China. And now to give you a market update, the all-share price index ended firmer for a third straight session today, hitting their highest close in 2 weeks. The benchmark stock index ended up 0.27% at 5,391.21, its highest close since June 19th. Meanwhile, the index rose 0.16% last week and posted its first monthly gain for the year in June. Now we have Dimantha Matthew with a report.
Both the capital markets had low turnover levels today. In the bond market, the secondary market saw rates actually coming down with the overall activity levels in the belly and long end of the yield curve experiencing a slight downward shift. Ahead of the tomorrow's bill auction, buying interest was witnessed on short tenors. In the stock market, of course, the market witnessed some level of retail activity, though on a very low scale. Foreigners actually continue to be on the selling side, led by Serenco Insurance non-voting and Chevron Lubricants.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan Rupee ended at 178 rupees and 6 cents against the US dollar today. The rupee rose at 0.17% last week and is up 3.57% so far this year. Now here's a look at how the Sri Lankan Rupee traded against other major currencies across the globe. We'll take a look at what's happening around the world after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's time to take a look at what's happening around the world. Now, scientists say last week's record-breaking heat wave across much of Europe is at least 5 times more likely to happen by climate change. The rapid attribution study says that rising temperatures supercharged the event, making it more likely to happen than through natural variability alone. Heat waves in June are now about 4 Celsius hotter than they used to be. Temperatures in France reached an all-time high of 45.9 Celsius last Friday. Heat waves naturally occur in summertime, but last week's event in many European countries was unprecedented because it happened so early and the recorded temperatures were so high. Records were broken at locations in France, Switzerland, Austria, Germany and Spain. China has meanwhile accused protesters who vandalized Hong Kong's parliament today of serious illegal actions that trample on the rule of law. A group of activists occupied the Legislative Council building for several hours after breaking away from peaceful protest. The Chinese government urged the city to investigate the criminal responsibility of violent offenders. Hong Kong, a former British colony, is part of China but run under a one country, two systems arrangement that guarantees it a level of autonomy where its citizens enjoy rights not seen on the mainland. Today's disorder followed weeks of mass protests over a controversial extradition bill which critics have said could be used to send political dissidents from Hong Kong to the mainland. On to sports, and it is French Open. No, in fact, Wimbledon. Now, French Open finalist Dominic Thiem became the third top 10 men's seed to suffer a first-round exit at Wimbledon with defeat by American Sam Querrey. The fifth seed, who has previously struggled on grass, succumbed 6-7, 7-6, 6-3, 6-love to big serving American, who fired down 21 aces. Querrey, a semi-finalist at Wimbledon in 2017, will next play Andrei Rublev of Russia or Christian Garin of Chile. Russian Karen Khachanov is the only player remaining in the top 10 that was born in the 90s. No male player from that decade has won a Grand Slam in singles. On to the Cricket World Cup, where one of the favourites, India, are taking on Bangladesh in Birmingham. Batting first, India opening pair put on 180 runs for the first wicket, and their efforts ensured that India had 314 runs on the board for 9 wickets in their 50 overs. Rohit Sharma was the star with a knock of 104 runs. Chasing 315 for the victory, Bangladesh are currently on 169 runs for the loss of 4 wickets. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.